Now, tensions between India and Pakistan have escalated sharply after Pakistan launched those missiles and drones that were targeting military and civilian sites. India has responded in full measure with precision strikes. At a high-level briefing on Operation Sindoor, we've heard from the Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri. He called Pakistan's denials farcical and a sign of duplicity. Also, that India's response was both proportionate and adequate. Colonel Sophia Qureshi has revealed more than 300 drones were launched across 36 locations, many of them Turkish-made Songar drones. One targeted Bhatinda but was intercepted. Also, the Foreign Secretary has confirmed that India will raise its security concerns at today's crucial IMF meeting, and that is about a loan to Pakistan. So now the message is obvious that India is going to respond responsibly but resolutely. And these tensions, as they boil over, diplomacy seems to be on edge. India responding with decisive military precision to Pakistan's brazen cross-border escalation. Now, New Delhi is also racing to win the narrative globally. So tonight, we are decoding the message behind the missiles, the drones, and the diplomatic firepower with our guests who are joining us, defense experts, retired Brigadier Vinod Datta with us, also retired Major General Sanjay Soy, and Ambassador Leela Ponnappa, who has also served as the former Deputy National Security Advisor. All of them joining us on India Tonight. Thanks for making the time. You know, the Indian envoy to the US has said it rather well, that this fight is not India's fight against Pakistan. It's a fight against Pakistan-based terrorism. But in the midst of all this, we are getting a barrage of misinformation and twisted claims from the Pakistani side, which includes the Pakistani Defense Minister, Khawaja Asif. Of course, the Indian side has spoken. This is what we got about it from Vikram Misri. Let's just put this in context before we start speaking with our guests. This is what we got from him.
The Gurdwara in Poonch in particular was attacked by Pakistan, and some local members of the Sikh community, including a Ragi of the Gurdwara, lost their lives in this incident, as I shared yesterday. TV पर आप इस हमले के चित्र देख सकते हैं. In addition, that we would attack our own cities is the kind of deranged fantasy that only the Pakistani state can come up with. Perhaps they do it because they are well versed in such action, as their history would show.
While Mr. Misri is talking about the deranged fantasy of the Pakistani side, Ambassador Ponnappa, how do you see the exaggerated claims coming in from the Pakistani side, the Defense Minister Khawaja Asif and his tall claims? Would you see them as an attempt to find a face saver, or do you spot something that is more sinister in such exaggerated claims?
Well, I think this is par for the course with Pakistan, where information is also used as a weapon. And we should not be surprised by it. We take legality and veracity very seriously as a country, sometimes to our disadvantage. But I think it is built into our character to stay with the facts. And this is not the case with Pakistan. So for them to make statements of the kind that the defense minister has is, as the foreign secretary has rightly pointed out, absurd. And we really need to continue to press with regard to the totality of the issue and the picture. The problem started not on May 7th, when India retaliated, but on April 22nd. I think this is a point that we need to emphasize. Also, April 22nd represented the culmination of a whole decade plus 3 decades of terrorist attacks. And this is when India decided that, given the barbarity of what happened on the 22nd of April, enough was enough. I think we should not get into the details of what the defense minister said. In any case, the civil government in Pakistan is not the one that calls the shots, it's the army.
Indeed, and as far as the army's action on the Pakistani side is concerned, Brigadier Datta, with over 300 drones that were launched from the Pakistani side, many of them the advanced Turkish Songars, what does that tell us about the evolving nature of this drone warfare right now and India's preparedness to counter them as they happen?
Well, you see, drones are being used as weapon, and they are being effectively used in various wars or the conflicts which we have seen. Firstly, it is a low-cost option. Secondly, it can dodge the radars because it can fly at a very low, angle, or what the choppers used to have, nape on earth flying kind of thing. And thirdly, it is a very precision, weapon delivery system. So it is being used in a very, very great manner. And most of the countries are using it. And Pakistan also yesterday tried, and say about 300 odd drones, stroke missiles they have used. Now, now what happens is that they were trying to basically attack our military installations, especially the airports or the airfields which were there. And similar tactics they had tried in 1971. If you recall, 13 airfields were, I vividly remember, were attacked by Pakistan. So they want that the Air Force should be rendered ineffective for quite some time so that they can, carry out their build-up, or they can carry out the preemptive strikes. But they were failed by our air defense system, which was such formidable that they had never imagined. And India retaliated, I think, within a very, very minimal time. And Pakistan was really in a disarray. So this shows that how we can, tackle the Pakistani onslaught.
Yes.
And Pakistan has also got a wind of it that what is the might of Indian army or the Indian Defense Forces. So, I feel some good sense will prevail in the leadership of Pakistan, and especially the military leadership, because they are living in a very, very, overwhelmed fantasy that they will run over India, or they will strike a nuclear, they will exercise nuclear option. Because nuclear option is not, the way their ministers have been telling and giving statements. They feel as if, they are going to celebrate Eid or Diwali, and every minister is carrying, 2 nuclear bombs in his pocket. So, and Khawaja Asif, if you see, I mean, I am appalled that defense minister of a country, though he's cute, but he's calm, cool, and clueless. And, the kind of statements which he has made. So India has given a very tough stand, and it has also given a good message that we are prepared 24/7, 365 days, and there's nothing, Pakistan can try. There are hardly any gaps. Of course, some stray missiles or drones can land up. I mean, it is part of the warfare. But India has put up really a very good front, and my kudos to the defense forces and to the top leadership also.
So to thwart the kind of attacks, the drone attacks that we've got, the missiles that came through from the Pakistani side, Major General Soy, how significant is it, the interception by India? 8 missiles taken off in one wave. What does that say about our S-400s, about Sudarshan Chakra, our capabilities when it comes under active combat conditions?
Vikram, thank you so much. In fact, yes, it was a big challenge. The drone warfare has taken a new dimension. They've changed the dimension of the whole warfare as such. We have seen in Israel, Hamas, Israel, Hezbollah, Russia, Ukraine. No, they are major weapon system. And the way Pakistan had launched the number of drones, around 300 to 400 drones and missiles, a combination of these. And in some places, like in a place like Jaisalmer, probably they had used a concept of storm drones. So our air defense system was laid out in a very, very scientific and professional manner. It was a layered air defense system. I would not call it is only S-400. Besides S-400, there was a Barak, there was a MRSM, there was a Akash, there was a Tir, there was ZU-23, there was L-70. Different layers of guns and missile systems were there, depending on the type of target, type of drone, direction, range, distance. The control system indicated to the weapon system, and they were engaged effectively. So it was a very, very professionally done, and I would also compliment our air defense team, both from Army and Air Force, that because of their professionalism and that the way they would have sweated out during peace, that's why they were so competent, and it was very well coordinated. We had also established integrated counter unmanned air defense system. So this is a totally automated system, because in this kind of situation, there's no time, because speed of aircraft or missiles is so fast. You cannot do it manually. It has
Right.
to be done automated. Automated system was there, and we were able to effectively defend 1,800 kilometers of airspace. That was a one credible thing, and the Pakistan did not expect that we will be able to do it. It is a landmark success, I would say. Across, like in Jaisalmer and all, I felt that as if Iron Dome from Israel were being fired in the past, and now we have set a benchmark, a new kind of benchmark of 100% success.
Yes.
And other thing is, like, we have also foiled the infiltration
But
attempts.
yes, indeed, we have
Forces.
done. And kudos to our forces for able to thwart these attempts from the Pakistani side. But I want to ask, what about international support for India against Pakistan? How well, for example, are the Americans standing by us in this war against Pakistan-based terrorism? The External Affairs Ministry, of course, has spoken about this, about US support. Just listen in for a moment to what Vikram Misri has said earlier today.
Conversation with the US Secretary of State. As you can imagine, the focus of discussions was the terrorist attack in Pahalgam and the response that India mounted after that on the 7th of May. The Secretary of State shared his thoughts on these developments with the minister. The minister deeply appreciated the US's commitment to work with India in the fight against terrorism, and he also underlined the targeted measures that India had taken in connection with Op Sindoor. The minister also underlined that India would firmly counter any attempts at escalation.
So at one level, we are hearing from Marco Rubio and the kind of statements that are being made over there and the reassurance that's coming in from the US side, Ambassador Punappa. And then there is what we've got from the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, who's simply sounding rather indifferent or perhaps making room for India to act decisively. It could be either of those. So how do you read the stance that the US has taken so far on the terror attack and then the subsequent Operation Sindoor and what we have got going between India and Pakistan right now?
Well, I think there are two types of messages over here, plus there is a larger area of messaging, which I would also like to speak about. What is stated in public is a kind of sanitized version of what is conveyed in private. And I think the level of our cooperation with the United States has reached a certain stage where I do believe that they have an understanding of both the issues and our requirements. So while obviously America sees it in its interests to be supportive of India in its battle against terrorism, equally it makes the sanitized statements in public saying, well, yes, there should be de-escalation, as pretty much most countries have said, whether they overtly support India or Pakistan. One, I think there has been a major diplomatic campaign in communicating two key countries, the United States, to Russia, even to China, and to the Arab states, particularly in the Gulf, about where India stands. And this is where I think it's very important not to forget that the problem started on April 22nd, that India's first responses were not hot or kinetic. It had to do with the diplomatic responses, with the decision to put the Indus Waters Treaty into abeyance, and really also to demonstrate to the people of Pakistan what was possible if they continued to let their government function in this manner. Thereafter, it was a question of India responding to April 22nd in taking out the terrorist centers, the 9 terrorist centers in Pakistan. That really should have been the end of it, because it was made very clear that these were retaliatory and they were not meant to be escalatory. Instead, Pakistan targets our cities, we necessarily have to respond. And then we saw what happened last night. So all the escalation and the advice on de-escalation has to go to Pakistan. This is something that needs to be firmly conveyed to anybody who talks to us, friends or otherwise. The second thing is, I think we need to communicate to the people of Pakistan who have witnessed what could happen if the Chenab were to dry up, who have witnessed the problems of torn families when Pakistan nationals were asked to leave, that this is of their government's making,
Yes.
possibly their army's making. Now, I'm sure there are methods of getting this message across, but they need to know that India did not seek this fight. India did not seek the massacre of 26 people in Pahalgam. But the support of the Pakistan establishment, governments as they have come and gone, but certainly the army, has been to terrorist organizations. It is well established. Pakistan comes out with, do an international inquiry and so on and so forth. But there is enough evidence with regard to the parliament attacks, with regard to Mumbai 2008, with regard to Pathankot and so on, that there is no credibility to their statements. So it is a good thing that India took a firm stand. But this message has to go through to the people of Pakistan, that this is not a situation of our choosing. It's of their making. And it's for them to
But Ambassador,
on their
Ambassador, do you think that message will go across to the Pakistani side if we do not get the kind of global support that we need? When the secretary of, when Rubio speaks to Jaishankar, Washington seems to be doing this balancing act, and it is, of course, going to be questioned how much leverage the US can hold over Pakistan at this time. We need that kind of global support for the strongest message to go across to Pakistan. Is that coming?
Well, I think this is where I say there is what is publicly stated and there is what is privately stated. And I have no doubt that our message is being conveyed with all due force to our interlocutors to get the message across to Pakistan, saying that the ball is squarely in their court. It's for them to call an end to this absurd expansion, escalation of the whole situation from terrorist centers in Pakistan to the entire international border. The LOC, of course, has has seen firing and so on, but the kind of shelling that is taking place across the international border, this is escalation of Pakistan's making. And this is the message that has to be given to Pakistan.
Meanwhile, militarily, Brigadier, India claims to have neutralized the key Pakistani air defense systems in Lahore. Those targets, how critical were they? What signal does their destruction send to Pakistan right now and to the world at large?
Well, the air defense system, which was destroyed, majorly, had AWACS, and AWACS are basically early warning, aircrafts. They have those equipment fitted, and once they, fly, they can take a lot of, they can do photo reconnaissance. They even have, lethal content, and they can deliver a weapon system. So, they were taken on by the Indian Air Force, and they found them to be, sitting ducks, and they have been destroyed considerably. So, this was a great blow to the Pakistan army.
Yes.
Because whenever, as it is, they are resource critical. As it is, their equipment is not mission worthy. So such kind of casualties in terms of equipment is going to be, very, very costly to the Pakistan army.
Yes.
And that's the reason I think they're quite, otherwise, yesterday by this time, they were on rampage.
Because here we're talking about choking the financial crutch that Pakistan relies on. And I understand that that proposed $1.3 billion loan to Pakistan by the IMF is being countered by India. India is also pushing for a review of all other funds given by several multilateral agencies to Pakistan. In fact, Vikram Misri has spoken about this, about that effort on the IMF front. Listen into what he said too.
जहाँ तक IMF बेलआउट का सवाल है, आपको ज्ञान होगा कि IMF की आज मीटिंग हो रही है. हम वहाँ पे अपना पक्ष रखेंगे और जो हमारा मत है इन चीज़ों को लेके, वहाँ पे साझा करेंगे दूसरे मेंबर्स के साथ। ये बोर्ड पे निर्भर है कि वहाँ पे क्या निर्णय होता है। और जहाँ तक जो कार्रवाई हुई है उसका जवाब देने का जो आपने जो प्रश्न उठाया है, जो आज ब्रीफिंग हुई है, जो आपको सूचना मिली है, मैंने भी कहा है कि जो आज सवेरे तड़के सवेरे जो गतिविधियां हुई, भारत ने उनका एक जिम्मेदाराना पूर्ण तरीके से और एक पर्याप्त तरीके से उसका जवाब दे दिया है।
Let me take that across to Ambassador Punappa. Ma'am, will the IMF, you think, be forced to review that bailout package for Pakistan, you think? Is that something you see likely happening?
And this really relates back to your earlier question also about the international response. Despite verbal support in the United Nations, in various committees and so on and so forth to the fight against terrorism, the fact is that sometimes countries, even countries that we think are close to us, hedge their moves. And the argument within the IMF will be, will Pakistan be less of a rogue state if it gets the loan or if it does not get the loan? Obviously, we having taken a position post-April 22nd saying enough is enough, this too is part of it, where earlier many of these loans went through. But I think the evidence against Pakistan is so strong right now, and the gruesomeness of the killings at Pahalgam have been so widely publicized that India needs to make its case. We are not sure how the IMF board will vote, but I think the position will certainly be very forcefully made, as the Foreign Secretary has stated. Even, if you take a look at the United States support or the kind of justice for the Mumbai killings that took place in 2008, it has taken 17 years for Tohar Rana to be extradited to India. And let's face it, we did not get full cooperation on David Headley's activities. So we've got to realize that ultimately we have to take our own decisions. We have to state our own positions. We may win some, we may lose some, but the action is something that we have to depend upon ourselves.
But meanwhile, I'm seeing a lot of denial of the acts of aggression coming through from the Pakistani side. The Foreign Secretary has spoken about this as well, and it's something to consider in terms of the regularity of such denials. Every time there are acts of terror, we've seen such denials coming through. And this time it's reached a point where we're seeing a conflict taking place, maybe a lot because of the kind of denials, the stance that Pakistan has taken. Listen to what Vikram Misri has said about this as well.
What I want to underline is that the official and blatantly farcical denial of these attacks that Pakistan carried out by the Pakistani state machinery is yet another example of their duplicity and the new depths that they are plumbing in their quest for disinformation.
The quest for disinformation, and we spoke about that, Ambassador Punappa. You were saying?
Yeah. This comes back to my point about communication.
Yes.
There are the facts, there's what happens on the ground, and then there's the question of what is the message that gets out. And I do believe that as we were, for example, before the war for the liberation of Bangladesh,
yes,
the worldwide spreading of India's position through different media, and mind you, in 71 there was no internet, TV was in its infancy in India and so on, but the message went across. And I think right now this is the message that has to go, that it did not start on May 7th, it started on April 22nd.
True.
This is the totality of the picture. And this is what we have to impress upon all our interlocutors in any particular way. Also in our own thinking, that, this is the culmination of certain many hostile acts that Pakistan has taken. Now, denial is always part of the Pakistani game. As far as they were concerned, there was no genocide in Bangladesh. As far as they were concerned, there was no Pakistani involved in the Mumbai attacks in 2008. Kasab be damned. Despite all the volumes of material that were given to them, there are no terrorists wanted by India and Pakistan, that they are taking action against the likes of Hafiz Saeed, accepting that it doesn't happen. In fact, he's protected. So Pakistani denial also needs to be called out. And the way to call it out is through very, very sustained and clear-cut communication.
So that kind of communication perhaps gets strengthened. The kind of diplomatic push that we can expect out of this prolonged, if it does turn out to be that, this Indian military campaign, the kind of reaction that we are getting from the Pakistan side. Militarily, of course, we've seen what they are doing, and we are talking about denials as well. So when you talk about diplomatic efforts, Ambassador Punnappa, do they get strengthened in case we have a prolonged military campaign? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it, diplomacy and defense go hand in hand. We are two sides of the same coin. And unless India has and demonstrates the strengths to defend itself, and this is what it is about. Now, if you recall, after the Mumbai attacks, Barack Obama had just been elected, but he hadn't yet taken office. But one of his first statements was, every country has the right to defend itself. This is built into the UN Charter as well. And this is essentially what India has been doing. We did not choose to attack any military installations. In fact, we categorically abjured from doing so and stated that. The response was an attack on the attempt to attack our military installations. The escalation all along has taken place from the Pakistan side. And for all this talk about saber rattling and trying to push the nuclear aspect, it's very clear. India has a no first use policy. Pakistan does not. So the lectures on escalation, on de-escalation, have to be made to Pakistan.
Meanwhile, we're tackling the escalations. We're talking about attacks on Indian cities. And yes, Vikram Misri has also spoken about using civilian airlines as shields by the Pakistanis. This is what he said about that.
These provocative and escalatory actions that were taken by Pakistan last night were targeted at Indian cities and civilian infrastructure, in addition to some military targets. The Indian armed forces responded proportionately, adequately, and responsibly.
Additionally, Pakistan's irresponsible behavior again came to fore. Pakistan did not close its civil airspace despite it launching a failed unprovoked drone and missile attack on 7th May at 8:30 hours in the evening. Pakistan is using civil airliners as a shield, knowing fully well that its attack on India would elicit a swift air defense response. This is not safe for the unsuspecting civil airliners, including the international flight, which were flying near IB between India and Pakistan.
Brigadier Datta, what do you make of this tactic that Pakistanis are employing? And the larger question is, are civilians this time more at risk? We are talking about the 1971 war as well. Compared to that, what we are seeing in a modern war, compared with all the kind of conflicts that we've had with Pakistan in the past, are civilians more at risk or less at risk? What do you see it as this time around?
Could you just repeat the question, please?
I was saying that since we are talking about the Pakistanis using civilian airlines as shields, there are attacks on these Indian cities, but the kind of warfare that we are talking about is about drones and missiles. There is modern warfare that is currently at play. So how much of a risk does this kind of warfare pose to civilians today compared to the kind of conflicts we've had in the past, say in the 1971 war?
Yeah, you see, in 1971, the density of population, the clusters of the cities, you see what was a village in 1971 has become a town, and what was a town has become a city, and what was a city has become a mega city. So these days, with the kind of precision ammunition which is there, the vulnerability of civilians cannot be ruled out, because basically they will see that though as per Geneva Convention, they'll be only engaging military targets. But they say everything is fair in love and war. And there are, sometimes the missiles also go rogue, or it may be with the ulterior motives. So civilians also have to be very, very, careful. And there are a lot of high-rise buildings which have come up. Earlier, I remember in 1971, because my father was fighting the battle on the Western Front, and every house has a trench. And I remember as a child, we used to just go, take our rajais and sleep there. But most of these high-rise buildings don't have, except some have basements. So people have to be more cautious. People have to be prepared, and people have to be told, like blackout concept. I mean, blackout, firstly, you will not be able to achieve because there were no inverters earlier.
Right.
Now, the moment the light goes, you have the inverters, start blinking or brightening the cities or the houses. So, and today the GPS system and the technology has, relegated the blackout concept. So with the precision ammunition, with the kind of avionics which we have, the kind of precision and smart ammunition which we have, things are going to be difficult, and civilian casualties will be more, because in 1971, I mean, the density was not much.
Yes.
So that's why the government is taking, and I want to thank media also, that they have been sensitizing people that you must take precautions, avoid unnecessary movement, and especially in the nights, because these days are quite vulnerable. You never know when he strikes back, or he will strike back once we are, once we have lowered our guard. Of course, there are no question of lowering our guards.
Yes.
But sometimes the lull is there in the battle.
So being at guard is going to be an important part, and that hasn't changed in any kind of conflict. But meanwhile, we're seeing strong words, we're seeing precise strikes, we're seeing high diplomacy from the Indian side, all converging, even as India responds to this grave provocation from the Pakistani side. And as we've discussed tonight, while the military edge has held firm, it's the strategic restraint and clear messaging that could shape global opinion. Don't you think that would be the case, Ambassador Punappa?
To make just one point, going back to your question about whether our responses to Pakistan's escalation and targeting of military and civilian targets in India would strengthen our diplomatic position. Absolutely. I mean, there's no question that the world respects strength. And I think for too long, India has been apologetic, partly because I think we have taken our own civilizational ethos very seriously in terms of peaceful coexistence. But I think the kind of structure of nation states today, and certainly the evolution of Pakistan, and the way that state has developed, not as a nation state, but really as a rogue state, I think strength becomes necessary. It was an American president who talked about how to ensure you achieved your targets. Speak softly, carry a big stick. There are no alternatives to that.
No alternatives to that. Yes, India has always been on the side of peace, but when provoked, and especially when it comes to a rogue state, like you call it, Ambassador Punappa, this kind of stern action is a must, and that strong messaging has to go out, militarily and diplomatically. Ambassador Leela Punappa, Brigadier Vinod Datta, Major General Soy, many thanks for joining us with your sharp insights and analysis tonight as well. Pleasure having you with us tonight.